ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतुषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome you all once again. We are discussing chapter 4 of Bhagavad-gita entitled Transcendental Knowledge. Today we'll try to cover this chapter, the last section from verses 25 to 42. In the verse we discussed yesterday at the end, we came to know that for all the sacrifices that one does for the pleasure of Lord Krishna, the ultimate goal is self-realization. Actually, nothing is material, everything is spiritual. It's our covered vision which makes us see things as material and spiritual. Matter means when we see Brahman without God consciousness, then that is called matter. And when you see Brahman with God consciousness, that is called spirit or spiritual. So with that note, we ended the class. Now let's begin from where we stopped, the verse 25 to discuss today. Before that, Mangalacharan. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Fullarvindayatapatra Netre Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha. Verse 25 to 43, 33. It talks about attaining knowledge or jnana through sacrifice. Going to the shlokas. Okay, so verse number 25. Daivamevapare yagyam yoginah paryupasate brahmagram apare yagyam yagyanaivopajuhvati shotradinindriyanyanye samyagnishu juhvati shabdadin vishayanyanya indriyagnishu juhvati सर्वान् इंद्रिय कर्माणि प्राणकर्माणि चापरे आत्मसंयम योगाग्नौ जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते। द्रव्ययज्ञस्तपो यज्ञा योगयज्ञस्तथा परे स्वाध्यायज्ञानयज्ञाश्च यतयः संसितव्रताः अपाने जुह्वति प्राणं प्राणे पानं तथा परे प्राणापानगतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायाम परायणः अपरे नियताहारः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति सर्वे अप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञशपितकल्मषाः यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजो यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम् नायं लोकोऽस्ति अयज्ञस्य कुतो अन्यः कुरु सत्तमा एवं बहुविधा यज्ञा वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजान् विद्धितान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद् यज्ञाज् ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते. So here varieties of yajnas or sacrifices are explained by Lord Krishna for different kinds of living entities or different kinds of humans, because different humans come from a different background, they carry different karmic patterns, they have different desires so they may not be ready to perform same kind of sacrifice for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So different kinds of sacrifices are given as an option. This table shows what are the different sacrifices that Lord talks about in which verse. In 4.25 he talks about demigod worship and Brahman worship. In 4.26 he talks about mind control and sense enjoyment. In 4.27 he talks about self-control. In 4.28 he talks about charity, austerity, mysticism or known as yoga, and in also study of scriptures. And in 29 he talks about pranayam. So different types of sacrifices have been explained for different kinds of people, right? Let's look at verse 25 now. Devam eva pare yagyam yoginah paryupasate brahmagnav apare yagyam yajnaiva upajuhvati. Translation: some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Someone please read the slide.
Prabhuji.
Yes, I'll come to you. Seema Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. A person engaged in varieties of sacrifices. A person engaged in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi or a first-class mystic. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifices in worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman or the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of different categories. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Purport Bhagavad-gita 4.25. Hare Krishna.
Yes, so the main point to learn is that we should not look at the external activities so much, but we should look at the intention or the purpose behind. Different people in this world will be engaged in religious activities differently. So that variety will always exist. People often, they fight because they don't want these kinds of varieties. They want everything same, uniform. But that's not possible because there are different kinds of living entities in this world. Sometimes people belonging to one spiritual organization may think, why not everyone in this world join my organization? or be the same as us, But that's not going to be there. Even when you talk about Vaishnavism, there's always going to be varieties of Vaishnavas, different types of Vaishnavas, And there should not be any disturbance in our mind why it is like that. Because they're coming from different background, they have different desires, different goals. So the process they adopt for self-realization or God realization externally may be also different. However, the goal is the same, which is to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So that has to be seen. Here in this text itself, we came to know about two kinds of sacrifices. One is demigod worship, the other is impersonal Brahman worship. Both are very different, the approach is different, but the goal is the same. Let's go to the next verse, text 27. Not 27, 26. Shotradin indriyan yanye samyagnishu juhvati shabdadin vishayanyanya indriyagnishu juhvati. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. So now we come to know about brahmacharis, how they perform sacrifice, and grihasthas, how they perform sacrifice. It's a little different for each one of them. Next verse. Sarvanindriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma sanyama yogagno juhvati jnana dipite. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. So this is about mind control, and the process which is being explained is called Ashtanga Yoga. So given in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Srila Prabhupada explains that, you can read it later on your own. Next verse. Dravya yagyastapo yagya yoga yagyastatha pare swadhyaya jnana yagyascha yatayah sanshita vrataha. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. So here 4 types of sacrifices are mentioned. Dravyamay yagya, tapomay yagya, yoga yagya, swadhyaya yagya. Dravyamay yagya means, dravya means some object. So you give that object in charity. That's called dravyamay yagya. Tapomay yagya means you perform some tapasya, austerity. Yoga yagya means you engage in Ashtanga Yoga. And finally, swadhyaya yagya, you engage in study of scriptures. Now all these 4 things required sacrifice. How? If I have worked very hard and earned some money, some wealth, then if I give that as a matter of sacrifice, I am sacrificing my energy, time and hard work. Right? Same thing, when I do tapasya, austerity, I reduce my eating, sleeping, I give up comfortable life, again I am taking pain. Yoga yagya, Ashtanga Yoga also needs lot of discipline. You have to sit in particular asana, you need to control the breath, you need to control your mind. That also needs lot of discipline, control over your body, over your mind. It's not easy to sit in a particular asana, because the body wants to be loose. In asanas you have to make the body quite stiff, and you have to restrict the movement of the body, not allow the body to move in any manner. So that's again some kind of pain. And swadhyaya yagya, to study the scriptures, is painful. It's very difficult to sit and study the scriptures. The mind will run here and there. One may feel sleepy, one may feel it's boring, but still you take that pain to study the shastras. So all 4 require some kind of pain, some kind of sacrifice. But different people will take one of these based on their nature, their liking. Sripad writes a beautiful purport to this whole text. Satyadeva Prabhu, can you please read this?
Yes. These sacrifices may be fitted into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possessions in the form of various kinds of charities. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely orders open various kinds of charitable institutions like Dharmashala, Annakshetra, Atitishala, Anantalaya, and Vidyabhushana. In other countries too, there are many hospitals, old age homes, and similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education, and medical treatment free to the poor. All these charitable activities are called 𝗪𝗵𝗿 yajna. There are others who, for higher elevation in life or for promotion to the higher planets within the universe, voluntarily accept many kinds of austerities such as Chandrayana and Chaturmasya. These processes entail severe vows for conducting life and under certain very rigid rules. For example, under the Chaturmasya vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year, July to October. He does not eat certain foods, does not eat twice in a day, or does not leave home. Such sacrifice of the comforts of life is called 𝗪𝗵𝗿 yajna. There are still others who engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogas, like the Patanjali system, for merging into the existence of the Absolute, or Hatha Yoga, or Ashtanga Yoga for a particular perfections. And some travel to all the sanctified places of the pilgrimage. All these practices are called Yoga Yajna, a sacrifice for a certain type of perfection, sacrifice for in the material world. There are others who engage themselves in the studies of different Vedic literature, specifically the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra or the Sankhya philosophy. All of these are called Swadhyaya Yajna, or engagement in the sacrifice of studies. All these yogis are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice and are seeking a higher status of life. Krishna consciousness, however, is different from these because it is a direct service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of the above mentioned types of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendent.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Next verse. अपाने जुह्वति प्राणं प्राणे अपानं तथा परे प्राणापानगतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायाम परायणः अपरे नियता आहारः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति. So this verse talks about pranayam. Still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. What is being spoken here by Lord Krishna is very nicely explained by Prabhupada in the purport. I'll show you a diagram of that explanation, which will be like easy to grasp, So this is what basically pranayam means. You can see in the diagram, the lungs are empty, then there is inhalation, that's called puraka, and then the lungs become full, so then you stop the breath for some time, that is called kumbhaka, retention. This is what they teach in pranayam, that you inhale a deep breath and then you stop for some time and then you exhale, that's called rechaka, and then again you stop for some time, so that's called kumbhaka. So this is what is performed continuously in the process of pranayam. Inhale, stop, exhale, stop, and then they will teach you have to count certain numbers, and in this way you can increase the duration of inhalation, exhalation and the stopping period, right? So the greater the yogi is, the longer the period for which he can stop the breath. The greater the yogi, that's how yogis can survive for years and years, because they don't breathe, they stop breathing, so they elongate their life by that process. This is pranayam. We'll read the first paragraph here in the purport. Surekha Mataji, you can read the first paragraph.
This system of yoga for controlling the breathing process is called pranayam, and in the beginning it is practiced in the Hatha Yoga system through different sitting postures. All of these processes are recommended for controlling the senses and for the advancement in the spiritual realization. This practice involves controlling the air within the body so as to reverse the directions of their passage. The apana air goes downwards and the prana air goes up. The pranayam yogi practices breathing the opposite way until the currents are neutralized into puraka, equilibrium. Offering the exhaled breath into the inhaled breath is called rechaka. When both air currents are completely stopped, one is said to be in Kumbhaka Yoga. By practicing of Kumbhaka Yoga, one can increase the duration of life for the perfection and spiritual realization. The intelligent yogi is interested in attaining perfection and realization. The intelligent yogi is interested in attaining perfection in one's life without waiting for the next. For by practicing Kumbhaka Yoga, the yogis increases the duration of life by many years. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always situated in the transcendental loving service of Lord, automatically becomes the controller of the senses. His senses, being always engaged in the service of Krishna, have no chance to become otherwise engaged. So, at the end of the life, he is naturally transferred to the transcendental plane of Lord Krishna. Consequently, he makes no attempt to increase his longevity. He is at once raised to the platform of liberation.
Okay,
Hari
thank
Bol.
you, Mataji. Next verse, 4.30. सर्वे अप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञशापितकल्मषाः यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजो yanti brahma sanatanam. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifice, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. Next verse. Nayam lokosti ayagyasya kuto anyaha kuru sattama. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then can be of the next? So the purpose of all the sacrifices, whichever have been enlisted by now, is like this, as explained by Lord Krishna. Two purposes for any sacrifice: sense control and freedom from sinful reactions. Whatever form of material existence one is in, one is invariably ignorant of his real situation. In other words, existence in the material world is due to the multiple reactions to our sinful lives. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, and sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. The human form of life is the only loophole. So sacrifices have to be done for that end, that I want to come out of this cycle of bondage. So sense control and freedom from sinful reaction. One who knows that knows really why any sacrifice should be done, and one who does not know that only engages in ritual, religious ritual, because that person thinks doing that thing in itself is sufficient, the goal or the perfection. So we will just, yes. A materialistic lifestyle might give one lot of sense enjoyment, but one should not mistake such stimulations as real happiness. It may appear as happiness, but that's not real happiness. Whereas performance of yajna with the right consciousness will make people really happy, truly happy, because then they are achieving the goal for which they are made, right? Satyadevata Prabhu, you have a question? Your hand is up from before.
I had a question, Prabhu, but should I ask now or later?
You can ask Prabhuji.
Okay. Prabhuji, in the previous sloka, there was a line which talks about one can, by the Kumbhaka Yoga, one can increase the life. So
Yeah.
I was just trying to understand. I was thinking that life means always it's like definite time is defined and that somebody is going to pass away on such and such date by such and such time. But I was trying to understand. So what is the right understanding, Prabhu, about is it destined defined or is it open?
In this regard, Srila Prabhupada explains that the number of breaths a person is supposed to take in a particular life, that is destined. So a yogi, by increasing the duration of one's breath, increases the lifespan. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing is that we should know, when we are born, we are carrying some prarabdha with us. Because of that prarabdha, we have got a certain kind of body, certain family, and whatever happens in our life is because of that. However, there are certain things which are changeable as well. So when you are born with a stock. Now during my life, whatever I do, it may affect that stock. Like people may die before they are supposed to die. If they engage in very sinful activities, they may die even before the actual death is going to come, Or if they engage in tapasya, austerity, in yoga, they can also increase their lifespan. That is also possible. So we come with a fixed destiny, but then that destiny can be changed also. It's a dynamic thing. It's not a static thing. So if a person wants, can change, and then according to the amount of efforts that person has put, the destiny will be accordingly changed by the Supreme Lord. Daiva will work for that.
So death, the date, time and all is not like predefined when you are born.
No, nothing like that. Of course, there are moments in your life when there is something known as this period may be very dangerous for you. So you may die, you may survive. Such kind of periods may come in one's life, but they are not like completely decisive, right? That this is the end. No. So the planets may indicate this is going to be a very difficult time for you. Your body may not take to the to the problems that may come from material nature, but you may survive, something like that.
Thank you.
Okay, next verse number, where are we? Okay, verse number, text 31, 32 now.
32.
Yeah. Evam bahuvida yajna vitata brahmano mukhe karma jan vidhitan sarvan evam gyatva vimokshase. All these different types of sacrifices are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. So, someone please read this purport. Arati Mataji, you can.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Different types of sacrifice, as discussed above, are mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of worker. Because men are so deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord. Here, I'm not able to see. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith from his own mouth.
Yes. So different people based on their consciousness are active on different levels. Some people are more active on physical level. They need something to do always, they cannot sit peacefully in one place. They're very, very active. So they have to keep the body engaged. And then some people, they are very active in the mind. They can imagine, they can visualize. So those people need engagement on that platform. And some people are very analytical. They have a very intellectual personality. So then they need that kind of engagement. And in this way they can, be engrossed in yajna or being connected to the Supreme. How different people are, differently they can be engaged. Next verse. Shreyan davyamaya yajnach jnana yajnah parantapa sarvam karma akhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So, one must sacrifice material things, but then that should be done in knowledge. That's much beneficial. You see, so many people in this world, they give a lot of charity. If you go to Google and search in Google top 10 charity givers, then you'll find names like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, stuff like that. They give a lot of charity. But then because their charity is not in knowledge of the Supreme Lord, their charity will only bring material benefits. Some punya will come. But if someone does charity with knowledge of the Supreme Lord, transcendental knowledge, then that charity will lead to further transcendental knowledge. We'll read a section of the purport. Yes, Ashok Prabhuji.
Aim for spiritual benefits. The purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from material miseries, and ultimately to engage in loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna consciousness. Sacrifices sometimes take different forms according to the particular faith of the performer. When one's faith reaches the stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of sacrifices should be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge, for without attainment of knowledge, sacrifice remains on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefits. Purport, Bhagavad-gita 4.33, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I have a question on this. Can I ask?
Yes.
In translation, it is mentioned the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better. And next line says all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. That is, we should have prerequisite knowledge, then we do sacrifice, then sacrifice is better. Or when we do sacrifice, then knowledge automatically comes. How do we reconcile this?
It is both ways. It is a
cause and effect.
It is a
cause and effect relationship.
It is a cyclic. It is a cyclic.
Okay.
The cause becomes the effect, and the effect further becomes the cause.
That is how it understood. Yeah. Cyclical is okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Fine. Next verse, 4.34. With this begins a new section, the last section of this chapter. The method of acquiring transcendental knowledge, the results, and the glories of transcendental knowledge. So one way of acquiring transcendental knowledge is the long cut, which we studied now. You perform some sacrifice, there will be purification of heart, and that will lead to development of transcendental knowledge. But then there is another path, another process, which takes less time. And Krishna talks about that process now in verse 4.34. Very commonly known verse, Tad Vidhi Pranibhadena, that verse. So that's the shortcut way of getting transcendental knowledge. So it's just like you do all the hard work to experience something, or you hear from someone who already had that experience and is ready to share that experience with you. So you learn fast without even committing the mistakes. That's explained here now in 4.34. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Translation: just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. They have seen the truth. So there are 3 steps or 3 phases of this science explained here. We approach, we inquire, and we execute. Service means execute, execution of instructions given to us. So when we execute those instructions, we become qualified to receive instructions of higher level, right? Like any teacher will start teaching the student from basic level. When the student is able to understand that and cross that level, then the teacher will go to the next level. Similarly, in spiritual life, when we approach spiritual teachers, we are taught some lessons, and then the teachers, they will test us. How much did you apply in your life? When you apply, then you are given the next level knowledge. Okay. Now, this is a very important principle to understand. In school, the teacher will say, this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3, this is level 4. But in spiritual life, no one is going to tell you that now you are in nursery, now you are in standard 1, now you are in standard 5, now you are in standard 10. This will not happen. It's not that gross. However, one who is progressive, one will that kind of student or disciple will get higher and higher levels of realization. So if you want to experience this in your life practically, let me tell you how you can do that. Take a book written by Srila Prabhupada and you read that book again and again. Again and again means you read it thoroughly, cover to cover. Then you don't read it for a month. Then you start reading it again. Then you again, complete it. Don't read it for a month. And then you start reading it again. If you are a progressive devotee, which means you are daily making progress in your Krishna consciousness, that book will never become boring for you. Because every time you read that book will teach you things of higher level. Because you have crossed the previous level, the book will bring you realizations of higher level. However, if you are a student who is stuck in one same class and not moving forward, then that book will become boring. Why? Because every time you read, you'll find nothing new in it. Why the book will not give you anything new? Because you are still stuck at the same level. So a newer and higher level of realization doesn't get revealed to us. Okay. So this is something we can see in our life happening. Same thing with meeting the spiritual master or hearing an audio lecture. If we are getting this signal, oh, it's the same, I'm not getting any new information, no new message, no new learning, then that problem is there because I'm not making progress in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is hiding knowledge and realizations of higher levels from us. And another person, another devotee might be reading the same book, attending the same lecture, will find higher level of instructions from the same source. So this has to be properly, as I said, understood. We approach the scripture or the holy name or the spiritual master. We inquire submissively and we get some instructions directly, indirectly. Some are vocal, some are not vocal. Then we execute those instructions. Then we are taken to a higher level of realization, high level of understanding, right? So this is how this verse works. And we have to also know that all the 3 aspects of these verse has to be accepted. Not that I only make inquiries. Some people are very curious about everything. So they will ask a lot of questions. But then when it comes to practicing in one's life, they'll not practice anything. But they will question a lot. What is this? What is that? What is this? What is that? Like, young children, they want to know so many things. They'll ask so many questions. So some people are like that, very curious, but then they don't want to apply anything in life. That will not also help. One should be curious and one should also apply the instructions. Then it makes any benefit to us, right? We'll read the purport to this shloka, very interesting and important purport. Who will read the purport? Okay, Harneet Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. The path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord, therefore, advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. The Bhagavatam 6.3.19 says, Dharman tu sakshad bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path, nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master, and when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind towards the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries become perfect.
Yes. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that all three things are very important. Right attitude, and after that, service. Why service is needed? People think service is for the benefit of the spiritual master. Service is not for the benefit of spiritual master. Service is for one's own benefit. If I have learned something, I need to execute, apply. Application brings change. Theory doesn't bring any change. So service is a manifestation of application. It's not that I am actually doing something beneficial for the teacher or the spiritual master. I'm doing it for my own benefit. Services are arrangements of the Supreme Lord or the spiritual master to keep us engaged in internal energy of Krishna. We discussed this yesterday. Two soils are there: material soil, spiritual soil. Material energy, spiritual energy. So seva is engagement in spiritual soil or spiritual energy. So the spiritual master brings those opportunities to the disciple so that the disciple can then shift one's consciousness from material soil to the spiritual soil. So that's for one's own benefit, not for the benefit of the institute or for the benefit of the guru or the acharya. So services should be done in this attitude, not that when I render some service, I am benefiting ISKCON. No. Or I am rendering service, so I am giving something to Srila Prabhupada. No, it's for my benefit. If I don't engage in seva to Krishna, I'll engage in seva to Maya. There's no third thing there, right? So it is for my own safety, for my own benefit. I am taking those opportunities. And seva is very important. Like Prabhupada mentions here, importance of seva. If you purchase something, you must pay for it. You cannot pay by offering the value of the teachings of the spiritual master. That is not possible. So it is called sevaya. Dedicate your life for his service. You cannot pay. How can you repay a spiritual master? So one cannot pay back. The only way to pay back is you do self-surrender, Atma Nivedana or Atma Samarpana, that I give myself. That's how I pay. This is a very interesting concept. Even Krishna does that. When the gopis, they come to meet Lord Krishna says, to anyone in this world, I can pay back. But for what you do for me, I cannot pay back. I cannot pay. I cannot repay. So then what Krishna decides to do in that situation? He decides to do that I give myself to you fully. That is the only payment I can do. Same thing in the case of Bali Maharaj. Krishna asked for 3 steps of land and Bali Maharaj said, you take. Krishna occupied everything in 2 steps. Then he said, what about the 3rd? Bali Maharaj said, you put it on my head because I am the owner and the owner is different from the property. So there also we see when you have nothing to pay, you offer yourself. So in the case of guru and disciple relationship as well, this works, that a disciple, out of gratitude for what he or she has received from the spiritual master, he offers himself 100%. Now, how will that gratitude arise in the heart of a disciple? That gratitude will not arise if the disciple has got only material rewards from the spiritual master. Let's say the disciple has received a lot of recognition in the society, or the disciple has become very wealthy after taking to spiritual path, or the disciple has become very healthy after becoming a devotee. So these material gains, they cannot bring forth huge amount of gratitude because these are temporary gains. But if the disciple, by the mercy of spiritual master, gains spiritual realizations, nice spiritual realizations, deep spiritual realizations, then there is a gratitude that I did not have these things, neither did I know I can ever have these things, but by the grace of the spiritual master, now I have these things. Now I am a spiritually wealthy person. And who made me that wealthy person? My spiritual master made me so wealthy. So in gratitude, then the disciple thinks, let me surrender. Let me give myself completely to you. Let me offer myself completely to you. So this is the only way to pay back. There's no way to pay back. That's the only way to pay back. And if one does so, then in return, whatever one may do, one may give 2 rupees, one may give 20 rupees, 20,000, 20 lakhs, 20 crores, or $20 billion. It's not sufficient. It's not enough, right? So the price to pay is I have to pay my body, my mind, my intelligence, myself. That's called complete surrender. Right? So this is possible by execution of this 3-step process. However, that kind of surrender cannot be expected from a new person or a new disciple. That's the ultimate goal. So we may start from our levels of surrender, our tiny, small level of surrender. And by following this process, we can grow in our surrender to Krishna and Guru. Slowly, 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 becoming more surrendered day by day. It's possible if we execute this process nicely. Okay, so don't go to God or Guru to just take from them. They are already giving. Go to them with a desire to serve them. That's where you become spiritual. Otherwise, we are only religious if we are going to God to get from God. God is already giving everyone. I just realized that I should ask him more. No, that's religion. That's not spirituality. Spirituality means that you're already getting so much from God. Now you want to reciprocate. You want to lovingly reciprocate. It's called being spiritual. Satyadevata Prabhu, you have a question?
Yeah, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. So Prabhu, in today's situation, when when the Guru is not kind of directly reachable, so when you are far away from him and Guru might be having many disciples, then you don't have ability to personally serve him and inquire from him and kind of things. In that situation, how to understand this message and apply in the day-to-day life, Prabhu?
Okay, so thank you for the question. Now, when you come to practicalities of application of a verse like this, we have to broaden our understanding of Guru or Guru Tattva. It's in the past, bygone days, there would be only one teacher having one ashram, and all the students would live in that ashram. But that's not the structure we have in ISKCON. ISKCON is a multi-guru organization, right? Which is very different from what used to be there in the past. In the past, the structure was one acharya, one gurukul, and some students, right? But ISKCON is different. Many acharyas, so many students, they serve together, live together, right? So then we have to broaden our understanding of what Guru means. Guru doesn't mean only some particular external form. Guru means anyone who is representing the mercy potency of Krishna or compassionate energy of Krishna. That person is Guru. Whoever is carrying that energy and whoever is distributing that energy is Guru, a spiritual master. And service to that personality is Guru Seva. So whether one is serving the institute, ISKCON, one is serving personally the spiritual master, one is serving the Vaishnavas, the society of Vaishnavas. If it's all related, interconnected, it's Guru Seva. So one has to be dedicated to that objective. It need not be that it has to be towards one particular person only. Of course, it's not minimizing the seva to one particular person. That should also be there. If someone is hungry and comes to you, say, Prabhu, I'm hungry, then you can't say, I'll sponsor prasadam for all the brahmacharis in the temple and that will feed your stomach. No, if that person is hungry, you have to feed that person. So service to individuals is important. It's needed, it's required. However, that is not the only way to serve. There's so many ways to serve. So that attitude has to be developed. That understanding has to be developed. Like sometimes some people, have this very narrow understanding. I can learn from only specific people. This is a very narrow understanding, very narrow approach. If people should not be important in our life, the teaching should be more important in our life. And whoever is giving that teaching should become worshipable. That's the principle, not people, not personalities. If you give importance to people more than teachings, then we are idol worshippers, right? Then we are worshipping idols. Then we are hero worshippers. We are worshipping heroes. Then we become cult. But when we give importance to teachings, then we are none of these. Then we are worshipping the Supreme Personality and his teachings. So that has to be understood. If we understand that, we will consider anyone who is connected to the bona fide parampara as worthy to receive our seva, service. Then there is no dearth of service. One can serve to any limit, to any extent. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Okay, so we give you a break and I'll answer to the points put in the chat after the break. Welcome back. So we have some comments in the chat box. I'll take that first. Please tell the difference between religions and spiritual once again. If we go to God just with the mentality of taking, that's religious, or being religious, that's religion. If we go to God to reciprocate for the love that we are receiving from Him, that's being spiritual. Next, does Srila Prabhupada refer to the movement as a cult? The word cult can take two different meanings. In those days, cult referred to a group or a specific activity. So Srila Prabhupada in some places did mention, but when he realized that in America, people give a different meaning to the word cult, it means you are following a particular person. So let's say there is a person who is advocating taking of drugs, and if you follow that person, then you belong to a cult. So when people started giving that kind of meaning to ISKCON society, then Prabhupada said, we are not a cult. You are not following me. I'm not the only person who is having this kind of ideology. I belong to a parampara, and that parampara starts from Krishna. So then we are not cults. We are following a tradition, an age-old tradition. Sometimes we are required to donate to fourth-class employees in our day-to-day life. How can we convert that seva in the feet of Lord? You can donate to them, thinking them to be Krishna's part and parcel. Next, it is said that whatever you are destined to receive, you'll receive not a paisa more or less. But if you increase your life duration, surely you're increasing what you get in life. Yes, but that how do you increase your life duration? Not by some material means, through the process of yoga. Materially, we cannot adjust our karma so much, but spiritually we can. By doing bhakti, one can destroy all one's karma. One can even destroy one's prarabdha. So through spiritual means, material destination can be changed. It's possible. But through material means, material destination cannot be changed. So when people say, I'll work very hard, and then because of that, I'll change my destiny, not possible. Cannot. But if someone says, I'll practice spiritual yoga, and through that I'll change my material destiny, yes, possible, very much possible. So here, when the yogis, they change their duration of life, it's possible because they adopt to the process of yoga, and by that they change. Likewise, a devotee can also change. Recently it happened in Kolkata. There was a businessman, a very rich person, and he was a devotee. He would not show to people that he was practicing Krishna consciousness, but every day he would chant 64 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, though he was a businessman. So his birth chart showed that he would die at an elderly age, suffering from a very deadly disease. But then he just passed away when he was around 50. While he was walking in the streets of Kolkata, he got some heart attack and he died. So Krishna changed his karma. Krishna did not want him to survive till old age. Krishna took him early. So through Krishna consciousness or spiritual practices, one can change one's material karma as well. It's very much possible. One can substantially do that. I'll tell you one story, very interesting story, that shows how through spiritual life you can change your material life. I met this person in Vrindavan. I won't take name. Still, that person is there in Vrindavan. So this person, whenever we used to see him, me and my friend, we got this, inkling that this person is not satisfied in life. Very, very disturbed, frustrated, lost, spaced out. He would never smile, never greet, and he would always see in a way as if he's somewhere else. He's not present in the moment, in the place, amongst the group. So we were a bit worried, what's wrong with him. We had to also do some project with him. He was involved in that. Later on, we came to know this person was haunted. This devotee was haunted. And he was nice. I mean, chanting every day. Just a second. I have to ask these people to stop the noise. Sorry for that. So Janmashtami is around, so a lot of renovation work is going on. So what happened was, okay, I'll come to that point, which you raised at the later. He was not haunted after he became a devotee. He was haunted from before, then he became a devotee. So why he was haunted, I'll tell that also later. So he was in a very bad shape, and I am making the story short. He came to Vrindavan. He started living there for months. He was there. And then he went to one Baba in Vrindavan, a very old person living in Vrindavan since ages, and very, very realized, austere. So some material powers were there, mystic powers, and some spiritual realizations. So that Baba told him, actually, let me tell you something very honestly. If you want to live longer, don't give up two things. Otherwise, you will die tomorrow. If you want to live longer, don't give two things, because your chart is showing that you're already dead. And still you are surviving. So what was happening in his life is, actually his parents were his arch enemies from his past life. And since his childhood, his parents were trying to kill him. So they had done black magic on him. And it was a very severe black magic. And because, he was a young child, he never knew that it's my parents who are trying to kill me. So whenever he tried to come out of that problem, the parents, they increased the problem. Again, went to the same tantric, paid him some money, and increased the power of the magic. So he had that bad karma, that he was born as a child in the house of those people who were his enemies from past life. So the parents were behind him like that, and he was suffering, going through a hellish life. He came to Krishna consciousness, found some relief in chanting the holy names and practicing Krishna consciousness. So he ran away from his house and came to Vrindavan, But his parents were increasing the strength of the attack, and that attack would come to him in 2 days, 3 days, a week. Whenever that attack would come, he would not be able to sleep, nothing, no eating, no sleeping, everything dysfunctional. So that Baba told him, you are already dead, but you are being kept alive because of two things. And if you do that, you'll have a long life. And he said, what are those two things? First thing is that Srila Prabhupada has accepted you. So that's where you're safe. Second thing is that Vrindavan has accepted you. So you are safe. So don't give up these two things. Don't leave the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, and don't leave Vrindavan. Otherwise you will die. Now, problems kept on increasing in his life. So he came to Bombay. to meet one astrologer and a tantric, a Vaishnava tantric. I know that person. So that devotee is from Madhva Sampradaya. And he does yagyas to help people who have these problems. So he went to this devotee, and being a Vaishnava, he was not in the mood of, cheating this another devotee. So he told him openly that when I see your body, I don't see a living person, I see a dead person. He said, your prana has become zero, means you have no life. Your chart is saying so, and your appearance is saying so. Just like, when a person gets electrocuted, then the electrical energy sucks away all the prana, the life from the life energy from the body of that person. Or when a person dies, you must have seen a dead body. It becomes so pale, right? No symptoms of energy. So your body is like that. I can see that with my eyes. You are a dead man. You are a walking dead man. But whatever little life you have, that is because you are practicing Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, you are dead. So he said, you have no hope. No medicine will work for you. No yajna will work for you. You are already living for years for which you are not destined to live. So Krishna is keeping you alive because you are practicing this process. So then he told him, go back to Vrindavan. Don't come to me again. Stay there. Serve Srila Prabhupada. So through spiritual ways, one can change a lot. Through spiritual ways. Material, not possible. Okay, reading further. Let's go to the next verse. 4.35. Yajgyatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutani asheshani drakshyasi atman yathomahi. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So in verse 35, 36, and 37, Krishna gives us the result of transcendental knowledge. I'll show you it in the table, just to give you a brief summary. 35 talks about no longer falling into illusion. 36 talks about crossing over the ocean of miseries, and 37 talks about burning to ashes all the reactions to material activities. So transcendental knowledge does this for us. If we develop transcendental knowledge, this is what we will get. So 35 told, no more illusion. One will not fall in illusion again, right? That's what we'll learn from 35. Next verse now. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamah sarvam jnanam plabenaiva vrijinang santarishyasi. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you'll be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. So it doesn't matter how bad past we have. If we take to this knowledge, everything can be rectified in just a short period of time. So this is the only hope for people of Kali Yuga, actually, because Kali Yuga people, they have lived a very sinful life, knowingly or unknowingly. So this is the only hope. No other thing can save them. If other things can save them, they will also take a lot of time. But this knowledge purifies quickly, in a very short period of time. So can a devotee be haunted? You got the answer to that, right? It was not that he was haunted as a devotee. And well, the answer is yes, a devotee can also be haunted. A pure devotee will not be haunted, but someone who is not a pure devotee can be haunted if he's not careful enough. Can devotees, demigods can also change karma or destiny? They can change, but they can only change in the way that they can prepone it or postpone it. They cannot ultimately change it, right? So let's say you are supposed to get some accident tomorrow. The demigod may do this, okay, after 5 years, not tomorrow. but cannot completely remove it. Not possible. Prepone, postpone is possible. What does boat of transcendental knowledge mean? It's an allegory, or it's an analogy. Transcendental knowledge has been compared to a boat. So just like to cross over an ocean, you need a boat. So to cross over the ocean of material life, you need transcendental knowledge. Like that. It's an analogy in it, or you can say a simile. So reading the translation, we did read next verse 37. Yathedhangsi samidhognir bhasmasat kurute arjuna jnanagni sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute tatha. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. So here is an interesting thing. I cannot stop myself from executing material things or material activities. Not possible. As long as I'm in material world, whatever I do will have some relation to matter. So it will be material. But if I do those things with this knowledge, even if I have unknowingly committed something wrong, or I am bound to do things which are not correct, I'll get purified by this knowledge. Who is pure in this world? No one. And which activity is pure in this world? No one's activity. If one says Brahmana is very, very pure, but Brahmana also sometimes has to engage in activities which will bring sinful reaction. So no one is pure. However, this knowledge can purify anyone's work. If someone works with this knowledge, it can purify anyone. So that's the potency of this knowledge. Very powerful, purifying potency. Nothing more purifying, Krishna says. Very beautiful shloka. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tat swayam yoga Sangsiddha kalen atmani vindati. So there is nothing which is as purifying as this knowledge. Nothing. Not even the water of Ganges. That's why Gita is more purifying than Ganga. There's nothing more purifying than this knowledge. It removes the desire to engage in sin. Ganga only removes the sin, but Gita removes the desire to engage in sin. Purifies our consciousness. That's why it's very purifying. There's nothing more purifying than this knowledge. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism. And one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. In due course of time, one will get this knowledge. Next. Shraddhava labhate jnanam tatpara samyatendriyaha jnanam labhva param shantim achirena adigacchati. How do you become qualified to receive this transcendental knowledge? 3 points mentioned in the shloka here. By these 3 things one becomes qualified. One who has faith, Shraddhavan, labhate jnanam, tatparaha samyatendriyaha. That person is samyatendriyaha, sense controlled, is not a slave of one's mind and senses, but knows how to control the mind and senses, and is dedicated to the cause of dharma. Right? Is dedicated to that. So faith, dedication, sense control. These 3 things are needed to be situated in knowledge. Very much required. And this is how we can get Bhagavad-gita knowledge also. You see, if you want to get the knowledge of Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, any scripture, we have to serve that scripture with dedication. We have to read it, study it again and again, again and again. Then that scripture will reveal to us the hidden meaning. The words that we read will have so many different meanings. Those words put together as a statement or a sentence can also mean differently to different people. So how do I, figure out what meaning does Srila Prabhupada want to give through this sentence? That is only possible by my dedicated effort to understand that statement. Then it is revealed. Otherwise, it's not revealed. So One may have a very superficial understanding of the scripture, but if you study with dedication, one will develop deeper understanding and real understanding of the scripture. These three things are there to make someone qualified to understand spiritual subject matter. Of reading the translation, a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. He quickly attains supreme spiritual peace. Next verse talks about those people who will fail to acquire this knowledge. Agyascha ashradhanascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam lokosti na paro na sukham samshayatmanah. Three kinds of people will not get this knowledge. Who are they? Agyaha. Agyaha means ignorant. Ignorant means someone who has never opened the book called Bhagavad-gita, never ever read Bhagavad-gita, never got a chance to hear Gita, is ignorant, has never got that opportunity. Just like animals, no knowledge of Shastra. Agyaha, no chance for that person. Second, has got knowledge of the scriptures, but ashraddhadana, no faith. Has the knowledge, but no faith. Means for them scriptures are okay, they are ancient books, nice books, good books, something nice to learn from, but not really relevant, practical for everyone. No faith. So they will study the scriptures as an entertainment, intellectual entertainment, but no faith in that. And the third one is doubtful. Has knowledge of scriptures, has faith also, but doubts what? It is very nice, it is very good, but for all of you, for me, it's not going to work. I'm a very special person. For me, it's not going to work, right? Gita will work for you, but for me, it will not work because I'm very special. I have 2 horns on my head, so it won't work for me. So doubtful, no benefits in personal life. No benefits in personal life. So these 3 kind of people do not get the benefit of the knowledge of Gita. Agyaha, ashraddhanaha, samshayatma. And Krishna says, for such a person, there is no happiness in this life and the next life. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next world. Now, how to remove that doubt if we have that doubt? How to remove that doubt? We all have doubts. When we come to the process, we may have so many doubts. How do you remove those doubts? So next 2 verses talk about that. Yoga sanyasta karmanam jnana sanchina samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibadhananti dhananjaya. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work or conqueror of riches. So, true knowledge can remove our doubts. Last shlok. Tasmat ajnana sambhutam hitsam jnana sinatmanaham chitvainam sanshayam yogam atishtotishtha bharata. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. So you should remove the demon called doubt with the weapon or the sword of knowledge. Kill the demon of doubt using that weapon. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you have a lot of doubts. Now you remove those doubts. You stand up and you fight. We'll read one slide. That's from 4.41. Someone can read this, please. David Prabhuji.
How to remove debts. One who followed the instruction of the Bhagavad-gita as it is impacted by the Lord, the personality of Godhead himself, becomes free from all debts by grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as part and parcel of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above bondage to action. Page 4.41.
So how do you remove doubts? You remove doubts by studying. One way, yes, but that's not the ultimate way. We remove doubts by practicing Krishna consciousness. When you practice Krishna consciousness, we get tangible benefit. How? Our consciousness gets evolved and the doubts go away. So through intellectual exercise, we cannot completely remove all our doubts. Only through practice of Krishna consciousness we can. Purification of consciousness is needed, and that is possible only by practice of Krishna consciousness. Then there won't be doubts, because doubts are in one sense compared to demons. Even in Bhagavad-gita, Arjuna compares them to demons. They are attacking us and taking away our faith on Krishna. So when we practice Krishna consciousness, we become spiritually strong, and those demons become weak, or we conquer those demons, and naturally there's no space left for the doubts in our consciousness, right? Now for the last purport, which I just read, 4.42, I want to give you an exercise, and I'll give you how many minutes? Maybe 6 minutes for that, or 8 minutes. Okay, 8 minutes for that exercise. You have to read the purport, which is not very long. 4.42 purport is not very long. It has, maybe around 20 or 30 lines. So you have to read the purport, and you have to divide the purport into sections. And you have to give some heading to each of those sections, summarizing what that section is talking about. Okay, so I'll show you the exercise question. Read the purport of 4.42 and identify the different sections. To help you, I'm giving the number also, total 5 in number. Add appropriate headings to all these sections. Okay. So this is your personal exercise. Take your time, 6 minutes, maximum 8 minutes. And then you do that. Okay, we're getting some inputs in the chat box. Sacrifice, spiritual activity, ignorance to transcendental knowledge. How Krishna consciousness is awakened, self-realization. Process of surrender. One line for 5 sections. Types of Sanatana Yoga and their benefits, types of spiritual activities, how to remove ignorance, sacrifice to awaken Krishna consciousness, how to achieve self-realization, Sanatana Yoga and its division, spiritual activities, faithless and full number 1. Sanatana Yoga system, Varnashram activities, Sanatana Yoga, spiritual activities, type of sacrifice, self-realization, importance of spiritual master, importance of Guru and Parampara. Okay. Rasheshwari Mataji, is that a question or you want to give the answer to this exercise? Voice talking. Okay. Arati Mataji, you want to give answer or what is it?
I wanted to give answer, Prabhu.
Okay, you can give the answer or you can put the answer in the chat box.
Okay,
It'll
sure.
save time.
Yeah.
I was typing that only.
Yeah, okay, type them.
Who's liberated from the very beginning of the study of Bhagavad-gita? That's one of the topics.
Okay. And fine. So others who have not completed, you can complete later. And you can send it to me if you like. So there cannot be just one correct answer, can be many correct answers. The words may be different, but the theme has to be correct. I'll give you a sample of how someone else divided it. And this is very, very much accurate. So you can then cross-check with your own, whether it is anywhere near this. So these are the 5 sections. Are you able to see the screen? Yes, I think so. You are able to see the screen. So what are the 5 things? The goal of sacrifice, part 1. The 2 levels of spiritual knowledge. Learning of the Lord's transcendental activities. Then goal of sacrifice, part 2. Properly learning transcendental knowledge. So this is very correct. And yours, if it is close to this, then it is correct. All right, so we will stop here. The last slide is, wait a second. The summary of chapter 4. The first 2 verses talk about the cyclic succession of knowledge. Arjuna asks a question to Krishna. When did you teach this knowledge to sun God? Krishna says about himself, about his birth, appearance, disappearance, purpose, transcendental knowledge of Krishna. Then Krishna is the goal of all the paths. Karma, vikarma, and akarma, and finally, knowledge from sacrifice and glories of transcendental knowledge. So we will stop here. I'll take questions, 1 or 2. One question in the chat box was from Rasheshwari Mataji. Is it possible that the tantrics can ruin a person's life by practicing black magic?
Somebody just the summary, that slide, can you show? Last slide.
Last slide. This one.
Yes. Okay.
So question is it possible that tantrics, they can ruin someone's life by black magic? Or it is the person's karma which are doing the bit? See, black magic or the person doing black magic is an instrument. Not that anyone can do black magic on anyone. It's not possible, no. So if your karma is very strong, you're pure, people will not be able to easily do black magic on you. It will not affect you. But if you do a mistake, then you may succumb to that black magic. Mm. So if I am living a sinful life, there are more chances of me being a victim of such attacks. If I am living a pure life, it won't come to me. Generally, who gets haunted by ghosts and who becomes a victim of black magic? Those people who are very much in tamoguna. Those who are in sattva-guna, these energies cannot affect them. They will stay protected. But those who are in tamoguna, these energies will catch them, because there will be attraction towards those personalities. So the scriptures, they talk about it. I mean, if you break certain rules, you become open to the ghosts world. They can enter into you. But then why they are able to enter into you? Because you did the mistake of breaking those rules. So then they find the way inside, right? So people in the past were very careful about these things. But people in the modern times, they hardly bother to follow these things. And that's why in modern times, you won't believe, not just there is one ghost inside people. There are people who are haunted by 4, 5, 10 ghosts simultaneously. So many ghosts are inside one person. And that's why those people are crazy. So this is because of irregular lifestyle, ignorant lifestyle. So black magic also works like that. We are not careful, so it happens. Like simple facts, you might be aware of it, you might have heard about it. Sleeping in the same place where you eat and you don't clean, a lot of chances of being attacked by a ghost if you don't clean up that place. Or multiple personality disorder is ghost attack, right? When you say multiple personality disorder, that's a scientific way of saying ghost. That's all. Or a modern way of saying ghost, but it's the same thing. So I'll tell you some like some situations where one can be attacked by ghost. So this is one, that you are eating and you are sleeping in the same place without cleaning that place. Second thing, if you sleep with wet feet, then ghost may attack. If you sleep with your feet in the southern direction, then ghost may attack. If you, especially for ladies, if you walk around outside house in the evening time with open hairs, then ghost may attack. Right? So that's why it's not safe to keep your hairs open outside the house. Wet hairs and open hairs. And if you like to visit places like crematorium and such places during night hours, then ghost may attack, right? If you whistle, then ghost may attack you. If you make scratchy noise while walking through your feet, ghost may attack you. So there's such explanations given in the scriptures. So people have to be careful. If they're not, then they will fall victim to those attacks. Who are those people who do black magic? Are you asking me about their identity? They're not just regular people. Well, yes, they are not regular people. They are very, very much tamasic or tamoguni people who are involved in black magic. There are two kinds of magic. One is called white and one is called black. Two divisions of Tantra Vidya. So white Tantra Vidya is that which the Vaishnavas have. And there is black Tantra Vidya, which the worshippers of Kali and Shiva have. So these people who are worshippers of Kali and Shiva, they are very much in ignorance, tamoguna. I mean, they really, really like to do nasty things. They will spend their time in crematorium, playing with the skeletons of people, skulls of dead humans and such things. They do horrible things. So they themselves are in ignorance. They use that black energy called Tantra Vidya for doing horrible acts. And then there are Vaishnava Tantrics who worship Lord Nrsingadev and other such personalities. And they do, it's called white magic. Who become ghosts? So many different kinds of people can become ghosts. Very sinful people can become ghosts. Those who commit suicide, they can become ghosts. So not that only one type of people become ghosts. those who break, those who engage in sinful activities in religious places, in holy places, they become ghosts. So there's different kinds of people who can become ghosts. All right, Satya Devta Prabhu. Okay, Neha Mataji. Wait, Neha Mataji. She raised the hand first.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
My question is it considered spiritually good to die early or live longer?
Nothing is good without being a devotee. So if you are a devotee, whether you live or you die, very nice, either way. If you are not a devotee, whether you live or die, not nice, either way. So if you are a devotee, you live long, that is also good. You don't live long, that is also fine. Right? This is what Narad Muni said for a devotee. Marova, Jivova, doesn't matter. You die, you live. No problem. Because if you die, you are going back to Krishna. If you live, you are still living with Krishna. So what's the problem? But if someone is not a devotee, that person should not die and that person should not live. That person should become zombie. Should not exist anywhere, right? Because no benefit, right? Living, committing sinful activities, and after dying, going to hell. What's the benefit? Okay, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Arati Mataji.
Prabhu, one question I had was in 4.29, we talked about pranayama, extending the life using the techniques and all that. I mean, is it recommended for a devotee in the sense like when we do pranayama as a devotee, I extend my life and I use that additional lifespan that I get for practicing bhakti. So is it recommended or not? Is whatever.
First of all, the kind of pranayam we are doing will not increase our life much. Maybe you can add, 1 or 2 milliseconds to your lifespan. The kind of pranayam we do. There's no quality to it. Ashtanga yoga cannot be properly done in Kali Yoga. Okay. So pranayam, which the yogis in the past they did, they had a quality to it. First of all, we cannot do asana properly. So what to speak of pranayam? Before asana, there is the stage of yam and niyam. We cannot do that also properly. So where is the question of doing pranayam properly? Right? The whole Ashtanga yoga, it begins with, first is yama and niyama. Yes. What about that? We are not doing that properly. We are eating anything we like to eat. We are living in any place we like to live in. So how are we going to get benefited? For Ashtanga yoga to work, it's explained in chapter 6. Go to a forest, live in a cave, on the bank of a river. First thing. Okay. Then practice celibacy completely. Second thing. Right? And then what do you eat? Pizza, burger, all that stuff? No. You eat fruits and roots, raw vegetables, stuff like that. Then one can do asana properly. When one does asana properly, the mind will become steady. It will lose its quality of jumping from one place to another place. Then one can do pranayam nicely. So what we are doing is just like, a child playing with a toy. That's all. It's a fun game going around. Okay. It's not going to give us much benefit spiritually. So we can be happy we are doing some yoga. It can only give us one kind of benefit. What is that? It can give us some health benefits. The body will become, nicely situated. And second, it can make our mind little calm than before.
Okay.
But the benefits which the scriptures are promising for an Ashtanga yogi, we will not get.
Okay.
Because we are not following it fully, no?
Okay.
Right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Very, very small extent, actually. I mean, even the yamas and niyamas is like, to a very small extent.
Yeah, it's not there only. What yamas and niyamas people follow. So it is actually going on for the sake of healthy body. And that's why I'm sorry to say this. You find mostly women doing yogasanas. Because they're interested in healthy body. So and throughout the world, majority of women are interested in Ashtanga Yoga, isn't it? You ask this Amrita Vilasini Mataji from Taiwan and China. Yeah? Only women interested in it. Men are not interested, right? So it's only about a nice, healthy body. That's all.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Satyadevta Prabhu.
Prabhuji, yesterday in the session, you were talking about one person asked you about Shiv Puran and Devi Puran and all, talking different truths. So I wanted to understand that, Prabhu. When the answer I got from somebody when I asked them is saying that each Puran is for different people are in different mood, but I still could not understand. You are in mood of ignorance like that, but I still could not connect and understand why the same Vyasadeva has written in each book differently, as describing somebody. For example, in the Devi Puran, it's clearly written. I've read some place where it's saying that she has created Lord Vishnu, and Vishnu is the Sevaka of Devi. They are all serving. Goddess Lakshmi is serving Devi and all. So, can you throw some light, Prabhu, and clarify that?
It is true. It is written like that, and the purpose is to attract the mind of such kind of people. But the ultimate purpose behind that is, in this life, you are situated in Tamoguna. So you are attracted to such kind of scriptures. By practicing some discipline in your life, in next life, you'll be in Rajoguna. Then you accept certain kind of scriptures. Then in next life, you'll be in Sattva-guna. So slowly you'll come to the ultimate understanding Lord Vishnu is the Supreme.
But why would the truth be written differently, Prabhu, in different books?
Truth is written differently because the truth has been written down for a purpose. And the purpose is evolution of consciousness.
But I've seen some people, Prabhu, they are very sincere in Sattva-guna. They are worshippers of Devi, not the negative side. Very sincere people, worshippers of Shiva. Very sincere people, worshippers of Devi in Sattva-guna. 100% in Sattva-guna we see them. But they are worshippers of Devi and Shiva. Then how to understand that?
That's fine. No, they may not have tamoguna in extreme quantity in them, but who can be purely in Sattva-guna?
Understand.
Right. So they are still not here in Shuddha Sattva. So whatever amount of Sattva Guna they have, they can get promotion from there to come to Shuddha Sattva sometime if they get association of devotees of Krishna. Isn't it? That may take some time for them, but it's not that it's not going to happen. I don't see their future. I don't know their future. So they will come to that someday if they want to, if they like to.
But what is the future, Prabhu? Somebody who is sincere. For example, I know a friend, whatever is described in the books, like sincere devotee, I see that he is following strictly everything for a demigod. Does everything so sincerely, humble, always thinking about the God 24/7. Whatever we read in the books, he's just following that. I could see that one, but his focus is on the demigod. Then how to understand?
His focus is on the demigod. Then what does Krishna say in Bhagavad-gita? Yanti deva vrata devan pintri yanti prithivataha. You worship the demigod, you go to the demigod.
You go to their loka.
You go to that demigod's place. But you'll not stay there permanently, right? Either.
Okay.
After some time you'll find I'm not completely satisfied here. So I need to find some other now goal, objective. So like that it will happen. So you see, we should not see this one lifetime as all in all. There are so many lives lived in the past. There's so many lives to live in future. People are coming with different sets of desires. If a person wants to experience how it feels to be a worshipper of Durga and how it feels to enjoy the benefits of that kind of worship, that person will be allowed to do so, no? Right? That person will be allowed to do so. So I cannot expect that it should be a speedy evolutionary process for that person. If that person wants to go slow, it will go slow. It will go slow because that's what that person desires. So ultimately, it's about one's own desire. If I desire to be like that, then the material nature will arrange for me like that kind of situation. However, if that person associates with a purer person, a greater personality, then the desire will change, aspiration will change.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Understood.
And if he's qualified, he'll take up to that higher aspiration.
Yeah, I couldn't answer one of my friend when he challenged me on this question, that this book clearly writes about Devi is the
So
supreme.
you tell that friend, no, you accept it. You accept that book, I accept Gita. What's the problem? I'm not telling you to accept Gita.
But when we are trying to preach, or when we try to explain,
we try to preach to those people who are receptive. We don't try to preach to those people who are not either interested in receiving it. If someone is not wanting to receive it, we are not going to bombard that person with that philosophy, with our philosophy, right? That's your choice. You don't accept it, you don't accept it. Isn't it? You follow what you think is correct. All right, Prabhu. Seema Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, from this last verse, I had a doubt where it is saying Jnana Sinatmanaha. Is it the knowledge of, you're talking about the sword of knowledge or weapon of knowledge? So when we say Jnana means, how do we understand now the bhakti or the Jnana part? I mean, these are two things differently understood, or how?
Jnana here refers to transcendental knowledge. It means knowledge of soul and knowledge of super soul. That's Jnana.
And then where does the bhakti in this? So
bhakti includes this knowledge, no? When you are doing bhakti, are you not having this knowledge?
Okay. Okay.
So Jnana is a subset of bhakti.
Okay. So still bhakti stands superior to Jnana.
Because Jnana is subset, bhakti is superset.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Navaniti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, in verse 26, it is written here that for the brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and senses in the fire of mental control. For brahmacharis, the mental control is sacrificed for them. At the same time, am I right, Prabhuji? Understanding right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, for the grihasthas, the sacrifice the objects of senses in the fire of senses. It means sense gratification.
Yes.
Sense gratification as sacrifice for grihasthas.
Regulated sense gratification.
Okay.
Sense gratification, which means I do sense gratification, but following all the rules and regulations. So the purification will come not by doing sense gratification. The purification will come by following the rules and regulations.
Okay. I was a bit confused about that, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Not Prabhuji, you. Many people get confused by that. Yes.
Prabhuji, we have our exam next week.
No, your exam dates are changed, no? We are getting a little late in our syllabus. So now the exam will be in September.
Thank you.
I'll message the new dates in the group.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you for reminding me about it. Those who have not yet started doing your essays, please wake up from your sleep. 4 chapters are over, 2 chapters are remaining. So start doing your essays. And those who have not started memorizing the shlokas, let me tell you, in Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, people of Kali Yuga have bad memory. So please start practicing memorization of shlokas. Only 1 month is left. And yes, exam is coming soon. So, Nachri Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my son is behind me that he wants to ask a question to you. So please allow if you are okay.
Ask a question which I can answer, okay? Yes.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Why Dhritarashtra only had one question? Why he didn't have more questions?
A very nice question. He had many questions, but Sanjaya did not allow him to ask.
But why?
Because Sanjay wanted to give him a long answer. So he asked one question and Sanjay gave him a 40-minute long answer. You imagine. Dhritarashtra got no chance to ask second question.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. David Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Your Grace, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for this wonderful class. Prabhu, I have this question, personal, and the question is it advisable for someone to wish that maybe his next life, he prayed to Krishna to bring him to a pure Vaishnava family? Because sometimes if you look around you, you can see yourself that you are not doing enough or not qualified to go back to Godhead because of maybe the circumstances or where you brought up, So sometimes you think you are not qualified. So you have this in your mind and wish that you pray to Krishna, even if I have to come back, please bring me to a pure Vaishnava family so that I can do the rest of my life to serve you. Is it the right thing to do?
Yes, one can pray like that on Monday, and Tuesday you can pray, let me go back to Godhead. So, I mean, you can have varieties of prayers if ultimately it's to, go closer to Krishna, right? Ultimately, Krishna will decide what's going to happen to me in future. And even if you don't pray, so Krishna will definitely give a devotee a better birth in next life, a birth possibly in Vaishnava family, right? So today, if your mind says, I cannot go back to God, pray like this. Tomorrow, if you feel some hope, then you can pray to Krishna, let me go back to God in this life. All these prayers are fine. Krishna will accept. The mood behind it. What ultimately will happen, that he will decide. Right?
Okay, so it's not offense.
No, it's not offense.
Okay.
It's not offense. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Arati Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. One question I had was regarding the purport in 4.29, where he talks about apana, then normally the flow is downward, and prana, the flow of the prana is upward. But he says for spiritual realization, it is practiced in the opposite way. I was just wondering how it will help. If I change the direction of apana to move it upwards, and the flow of prana to move it downwards instead of upwards, how does it help in spiritual realization? That is something I had.
It helps in spiritual realization by, so you need to understand the mechanical science of it. Air controls mind. Our body is made of kapha, pitta, vata. Vata means air, right?
Yeah.
So air controls the mind. So through pranayam, I am controlling my air, the breath.
Okay.
So when I change the direction or reverse the direction of my breathing, I reach to a state of equilibrium. When you apply force, equal amount of force into opposite direction, then there is a state of equilibrium.
Okay.
Right? In that state of equilibrium, mind becomes very calm, peaceful. So then that steady mind can go to the next stage of Ashtanga, which is dharana, meditation. How can I meditate with an unsteady mind? My mind will jump from one subject to another subject. Right? So the purpose of pranayam is to create an internal equilibrium in which meditation becomes easily possible. How do you do that? By controlling the airs inside. Right? Right. So then you reverse the direction of the air, or you make the airs collide with one another. And by colliding the airs, you reach to a state of equilibrium. So you see, if we really understand the process of pranayam, we can understand one thing, that in Kali Yuga, it's not possible. Right? Because people are not so sharp. They are not so sharp. In Kali Yuga, people are so dull that when they become sick, someone has to tell them, you are sick. That person will not realize I'm sick. which means they are so disconnected from their own system, their own body, their own mind, right? So for this practice, one has to be acutely sharp. Air going inside, air coming outside. One has to be acutely sharp. So people of Kali Yuga cannot. They are doing yoga is just like, a child having a toy kitchen and making chapatis. It's nothing more than that, right? So you can call that as chapati, but it will not make the belly stop crying.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, some questions in the chat box. Then I'll take yours, Harnit Mataji. Someone said, when somebody wants to take revenge on a person who is not sinful, does the black magic still work? No, but then when you say someone is not sinful, how can you say that person is not at all sinful, right? To some extent, sin must be there. If yes, then there are chances. But if you are pure to great extent, you'll not be affected by such magic. The demigods are also ultimately worshipping Sri Krishna. Not all the demigods are worshipping Sri Krishna, and not all of them are worshipping Krishna purely. Some are worshipping, some are not worshipping. What will be the syllabus of exam? Sleeping soul today has woken up. What is the syllabus of the exam? So I'll put in the WhatsApp group. Thank you for waking up. Okay, Harnit Balaji.
So we can continue doing yoga for health benefits or no?
Do it. Who says no? I never said so. Right? I never said don't do yoga for health benefits. But that's all we should do it for.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you so much. See you next. No, not next week. Next week, Chutti, holiday, Janmashtami, so many things to do, celebrations. So Saturday, Sunday, no